Good afternoon. Today is Thursday, October 25th, 2012. We are in the Tanque Verde High School library in Tucson, Arizona to hear about the military service of Mike Colosimo. Our names are Catherine Pudelko and Jacob Niccum, and we are here today with Rachel Barron as our camera person and Miss Bradley, advisor of the Veterans Heritage Project. Mr. Colosimo was born October 23rd, 1980. He served in the Second Gulf War from April 2003 to April 2004. He served in the Army and his rank was specialist. Ready?
Okay, so first question, were you drafted or did you enlist yourself?
Oh, absolutely enlisted.
Was there a reason for why you decided to do that?
So I was working at a great company, and I just it felt like I wanted to do something else. Didn't really have any idea what that was, so I started pursuing the military and decided to join the Army. It was kind of a whim. Didn't really think about it too much, but just kind of did it.
Yeah.
Where were you living when you decided to enlist?
Tucson, Arizona.
Okay. Why'd you pick the service branch that you enlisted in?
Honestly, Army recruiter was the first guy I saw, and it seemed like it was just the best option, and just went with that.
What was your training like?
Basic training was very interesting. So I had an interesting experience. I got to basic training September 4th, 2001, exactly a week before 9/11. And so they had a lot of issues getting troops to basic training, basically because all the planes were shut down. And so we actually started out with 1/3 the normal people that usually go through basic training, which meant a lot more one-on-one drill sergeant time, which was very interesting. But you know, it was nice because it was a lot smaller, and I think we got better training. You know, with the smaller ratio. So basic training was tough. Was in South Carolina, Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I guess it has the name Relaxing Jackson. I didn't experience that. Wasn't very relaxed. And then I went to Advanced Individual Training, AIT, in Fort Bliss, Texas, which was interesting because it has a very similar climate like Tucson, and I-10's running right through the middle, and I know that I'm only 4 hours away from home, but
Yeah.
it was definitely, it was tough to be gone so long, but got through it and finally got home.
All right. Do you remember any of your instructors from your training?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to butcher his name, but Drill Sergeant Schlauerbaum, I think it was. And just a big guy, and always liked to pick on me and give me a hard time. I was one of the biggest guys in basic training, and which was, it had its advantages. I've got to carry the guide-on flag, which is it's an honor. So when we're marching from point A to point B, I got to carry that, which was cool. But at the same time, you know, when the drill sergeants wanted to pick on somebody, I was always the first one. So definitely got my share of one-on-one time with him. So.
What was one of the biggest things that helped you get through your training?
You know, in my, you know, I think when you look at the commercials, you watch military movies, it's always about the drill sergeants there to yell at you, and their job is actually to help you find the motivation that you don't know you have. It was, you know, having them screaming at you, honestly, is one of the best things that can help you out. I'm not a very coordinated person, and I remember when we had to do it's called the Victory Tower, and I had to crawl down the rope with one hand, and I'm not very coordinated, and I kept falling. And finally the drill sergeant got me and held me and said, "You will do this time." And got it up and did it, and did the, I think it was like the 10th time, but I did it right this time without falling. So.
Do you remember your first days in service? Like, how did you feel?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The first day was it was a long day. We left Tucson. Actually, left Tucson the night before. Mom dropped me off at the hotel, spent the night. We got shipped out the next day, and I don't think we landed in South Carolina until like 11 o'clock at night. We got in, they started giving us all of our, in processing and all our uniforms and stuff like that. And by the time we were done with that, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Said, okay, try and get as much sleep as you can. Probably got half-hour sleep, and it was up the whole next day. And the days were kind of merging together in my head, and didn't really know. But that was the first day, and then we were just working on getting in process and about to start basic training. And then 9/11 happened, and it was. They didn't really tell us exactly what was going on, but we could all tell that something had happened. Because all the drill sergeants were in a corner whispering, and you could tell something big happened, but we didn't really know what. In fact, I didn't even learn it was a terrorist attack until middle of October. Oh. We heard planes hit the World Trade Center, but that's all we heard. To me, I was just like, wow, it's kind of an interesting coincidence. And then I was actually on the phone with my mom, and she's like, did you hear about the terrorist attacks? And I said, no, what terrorist attacks? And then that's when it kind of all clicked. So it was kind of interesting, and the rumor mill started, and the rumors that basic training was going to get cut down to 4 weeks, and we were all going straight overseas, and so we didn't really know what was going to happen, but nothing like that happened. We continued on through basic training and went to our normal training afterwards. So.
What was your first assignment after training?
Well, I joined the Army Reserves, so after training was up, I got to go back home, which is kind of nice, and then did my 1 week in a month and 2 weeks a year. And the first weekend was pretty intense because I was in a transportation company, and we went to learn how to drive all the big trucks. But we were a specialized transportation unit. The trucks we drove were called PLSs, Palletized Loading System, and we didn't get trained on that when we were in training. Kind of similar vehicles, but so we had to kind of get retrained on all that. So the first couple of drills were pretty interesting. Just learning the new big vehicles and learning how to drive them.
Yeah.
Sorry. Did you see any combat while you were driving, or was it specifically away from combat?
When I was when we were here in Arizona, seen any combat obviously in the United States, and then was at work one day and got the phone call from my platoon sergeant. Said, "Hey, you're not going to work tomorrow. You're reporting because you're getting deployed." So me and I think it was about 25 people from Tucson got attached with a group from Oceanside in Camp Pendleton, California. So we, 2 days later, we flew out, met the group in Fort Lewis, Washington, and spent a couple months there, and then we went overseas. And I was overseas for a year in the Kuwait, Iraq area. And definitely saw some combat there. We got there about a month after the surge began. So as far as we saw a lot of destruction on the side of the road. Burned up tanks, a lot of disabled vehicles, and then we tried not to drive at night, but there were a couple times we had to. And we saw tracer rounds flying right in front of our trucks, which was definitely pretty scary. There was definitely not a whole lot of combat, not a whole lot of face-to-face combat because we were transportation, but we definitely saw some interesting situations.
Were there any casualties while you were going from point A to point B overseas? We
had one of the platoons. They went on a mission, and I forget where exactly they were. But they got attacked with mortars, and the mortar landed right underneath the Humvee, and the Humvee blew up. And one of the luckily nobody died, but one guy got his arm pretty bad, pretty messed up. A girl got a bunch of glass in her head, that was pretty scary.
What are a couple of your most memorable experiences from actually being overseas, something that really stood out to you?
Christmas was very interesting. It was about, we got there in April, so it was kind of towards the end. But one of the things that I think a lot of people take for granted is, it's Christmas time, I'm going to spend time with my family. But we were all in Kuwait, and it was Christmas Day, and we didn't really know none of our family there. I mean, we were our own family, and we I don't know who we sweet talked, but we were able to go into Kuwait, and we got some really good steaks, and we grilled them up, and it was it was really interesting. Just kind of being there with this family on Christmas. So that was interesting. New Year's was interesting for a couple different reasons. What else? Just the camaraderie. When we got there, we were a reserve unit. Didn't know exactly how long we were going to stay. The rumor was that it might be a year, might be 3 months. Who knows? So we went to just not knowing. That was pretty tough. And I'll never forget the day they said, "Okay, start packing your stuff. We're going home." That was definitely one of the most exciting times.
Were you awarded any medals or citations while you were there?
Yeah, I was awarded an Army Commendation Medal. I think most of the people in my unit were. I forget exactly, if you drove over 200,000 miles or 250,000 miles that year, you were awarded, and I think most of us reached that easily. So yeah, I got an Army Commendation Medal for doing that.
About how frequent were your missions?
They were, when we first got there, it was, we would, there'd be different lengths. So, one mission would last, 5 days, come back for a day, then go on a 7-day mission, come back for 2 days, go on a 3-day mission. It just really depends. Towards the end, like I mentioned, we're a specialty truck. The truck was designed to drop off supplies really quick. They have the it's palletized loading system. So there's a big flat rack that you have, and it's designed you can drop it off and just get out of there. So the troops there could have the supplies. Not a whole lot of need for that in this particular war in Operation Iraqi Freedom. So they used this as much as they could, but towards the end they didn't have a whole lot of use for our trucks. So they actually they asked for volunteers to learn how to drive another truck. It's called the Head. It's actually the largest vehicle in the military. And it was, so I learned how to drive that also, and we were carrying a lot of tanks. When the 2nd Infantry Division came in with the Strikers, the tanks with the, what they're called, the perimeters around them, we got to take them up into northern Iraq from Kuwait, so that was pretty cool.
How did you stay in touch with your family and your friends back in Arizona, or throughout the entire country while you were overseas?
A lot of letters. I wasn't great about writing letters, but I was really good at reading them. So a lot of my family would write letters. I would write occasionally. They had luckily, since we were actually stationed in Kuwait, there was some actual phones we had access to, and so I tried to call home when I could. When you're out in the middle of on a mission in the middle of Iraq, you're obviously not going to be able to contact anybody. So I know my family got a little worried if they didn't hear from me for about 10 to 15 days. But I got to talk to them when I tried about once a week at least. There were a couple times towards the end where we weren't very busy, and I think one time I called home. It was 3 days in a row, 4 days in a row, something like that. So it was kind of nice.
What was it like to, did you experience a lot of pressure or stress while you were overseas?
So the stress of not knowing how long we were going to be there, that got to a lot of people. When you're in active duty, you kind of know something like this is happening. Hey, you're going over for 6 months. You're going to go. That's your job. But when you're in the reserves, it's a little different because basically your life's getting put on hold. your job, family, everything, gets put on hold, and I think that was stressful for a lot of people in its own way. There was definitely situations. I remember we were in Fallujah one night, which is one of the dangerous places up there, and just kind of lift our heads up from our sleeping bags, and we could see see a firefight just down the mountain, and that's definitely pretty stressful. Not knowing someone's gonna fire a RPG up there, or you just don't know. So definitely some stressful times.
How did you keep yourselves, how did you relieve all the stress? Did you have entertainers, or what did you do to just...
So we did have some entertainers that came. In fact, that was one of my most memorable experiences. Bruce Willis, he has a band. They came out and they performed for us. And before he went on, he's like, hey, I play a military person in the movies, but you guys are the real thing. And just hearing him say that and kind of hearing his band, it was really cool. And then I think it was a couple months later, Leanne Tweeden, which was an FHM model at the time, came out, and all the guys loved that. And Robin Williams was there also, and so he did a little probably 20-minute stand-up for us, and it was really cool to see that. Arnold Schwarzenegger came out, Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders came out. So definitely got to see some entertainment, but we tried to have as much fun as we could to relieve some of the stress. We did a good job.
What was daily life like around camp?
A lot of guard duty.
Yeah.
We were in Kuwait, so it wasn't that. We didn't think anyone was gonna break in. So guard duty was, we were definitely there just in case someone came. But a lot of guard duty at night and during the day. When we weren't on missions, because it got so hot over there. I've got pictures of someone took a picture of the thermometer when it was at 133. And so when it gets that hot, you just can't do anything. You don't have a lot of energy. So what we used to do is we used to get up really early, go make sure all of our trucks were okay, come back in about lunchtime, go to lunch, and then we actually had mandatory nap time. And so in the afternoon, we just kind of stayed in the tents, tried to cool off, do some things that didn't require a whole lot of exposure to the sun, relax a little bit, and then around 5 or 6, go to dinner, come back, and we go back out to the trucks and do what else needs to be done for the day. So when we weren't on missions, that's what it was like. When we were on mission, it was always up really early, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, get the trucks ready, head on out, and just drive, 10, 11, 12 hours at a time. A couple would stop for fuel, but it's not like you were on a road trip when you get to stop near Circle K and fill up your thirst buster. So it was definitely that's stressful in itself because you're in a truck and you got to keep your eyes peeled for anything that's out there. So
what was your did you? What am I trying to say? What was your opinion of your officers and your soldiers who you were not very close to, the people whom you didn't know very well?
There's nothing like a situation like this to bring people close together. There was a group about 25 of us from Tucson, and we were with a group probably 80, 90 people that are from Southern California, and then we had a couple other units. But by the end of it, we were all part of the 478th Transportation Company. When we first started, it was a little, they're from Tucson, they're from San Diego, but towards the end, we're all one family. The officers, you hear about, enlisted ranks and officers, and we definitely had some good officers, but there were some officers that we think probably could have done a better job also. So.
Where did you go when you had leave time?
I got 2 weeks off in end of 2003 and came home. I'm pretty sure. I think I spent the whole 2 weeks in Tucson. I think we might have gone to San Diego, California for just a couple days just to see some family. But came home, hung out with family and friends. I mean, that's what it was all about. So yeah, we only had 2 weeks off. There were a couple times when we got to take a bus into Kuwait, and there's a couple malls there, and I got to walk around the malls in civilian clothes, and kind of do shopping, do some stuff like that. It didn't happen very often, but it happened a couple times, and that was nice. They have McDonald's there, so we found McDonald's and tried to get some food that we were used to.
Yeah.
Do you have any, photographs that you would like to share with us?
I did. I got about 300 pictures, so I've got a lot. I was going to email a couple and share some of those. But yeah, there's some good pictures. In fact, I was going through them today and I found one of the McDonald's. There's a picture that I have of we took a Humvee. There was like 4 of us, and I think that we're trying. There's a Kuwaiti naval base a couple miles away from us, and we were trying to find that, and we ended up finding the McDonald's instead. And so we took a Humvee with a mounted 50 cal on top through the drive-thru. I took a picture of it. I was trying to find that picture. I couldn't quite find it, but if I can, I'll send it.
That's great.
Did you have a diary or anything while you were?
No, not really. A couple guys did. They wrote in it every day. I wasn't that organized. Couldn't remember to do it every day. I think a couple times I tried to, but it wasn't not something that I kept up on.
Mm-hmm.
Did you keep any of the letters that you received?
Every single one. Still have them.
What did you do after your service ended when you came home? What was, the first things that you did the days and the next couple weeks after you got back?
Drank a lot of alcohol. So we got back. Kuwait's a dry country, so we weren't supposed to drink in country. Of course, it happened. But came back and spent time with family and friends, and definitely had a couple beers. It was it was really hard to adjust back to life. Me and one of my buddies we were both from Tucson, but we didn't know each other very well, and so when we got back, we were kind of attached at the hip. We would always hang out with each other. And one of the first things that he did, which it didn't make sense to me at the time, but he's like, "Hey, I want to go buy a pistol." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And I didn't get it until probably 3 or 4 days later. It felt like I was home, but I was missing something. And when you go from a situation where we were living there for a year and we were never more than 5 feet away from our our guns, our weapons, to coming back here, there was I didn't have my gun anywhere and I missed it. And it was really strange not having that feeling of security to have a gun or a weapon close by. And so about a week later, I did the same thing, bought a pistol and brought it everywhere with me.
Yeah.
Not to restaurants or anything like that, but I always had it in my car, and it was just something that made me feel a little more comfortable.
Did you have anything else like that made it easier for a transition?
No, not really. The first couple of months, we accrued leave in the military, and I didn't have to go back to my normal civilian job for a couple months, and so I'd say probably every other day, if not more often, kind of look through the pictures and take a look at my uniform that I didn't have to wear anymore, and it was really weird just kind of transitioning back. Just kind of keeping reminding myself that hey, this is that part's over, and you're starting something a little bit different now.
What was it like in work once you came back?
It was nice to see everybody. A lot of people were still there. But I've been gone for 16, 18 months, and so a lot of new people, a lot of people left, and it was kind of going stir crazy, honestly, when I got back because. I work at a computer software company, and kind of sitting down, and that's sitting down in front of a computer, and that's not what life was like overseas. We were always out, moving around, doing something, and so I was definitely went a little stir crazy for the first couple of months.
Are you still in contact with the people who were in your unit?
Some of them, yeah. In fact, my platoon sergeant and I, we probably send each other a text message at least a couple times a month. A couple friends I still remain in contact with. So I'm friends with half of them on Facebook, but I don't constantly talk with them.
Did you join a veterans association or something like that? when you
Yep,
got back?
the local VFW in town. One of my buddies' dads was in the Navy, and he was the commander of the VFW, so I joined that specific one. Don't go there a whole lot, but it's kind of nice to go and hear some of the old stories and guys that were in Vietnam and even World War I or II.
Did your experience change the way you think about war or the military?
Not really. I always thought that, again, you only know what you see in the movies, and there were definitely some tough times, and there were times that I think that we were fortunate to be stationed in Kuwait, but there were when we first got overseas, we had a water, we could take, I think we could only take a shower, once every 3 or 4 days or something like that, and then we had 2 water bottles that we could drink, and when we first got over there, and then later it definitely picked up. But I'm sure there were other guys that would have killed to have a scenario like ours, where they're the infantry guys that went over there and they didn't have planned showers. They just kind of did their thing. So and it's all a matter of perspective. So when you think about our situation, I guess comparatively it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Would you go back and return to serving and go back to your unit and everything? Would you relive it again if you had the chance to?
I don't know. I think that it definitely it teaches you a lot about yourself. Teaches you a lot about what you can do going through something like that. But I think going through it once was enough.
Yeah. So how did your service impact your overall life?
It definitely impacted a lot. If I think about the military, I think I got the GI Bill now, which I'm taking full advantage of. So I'm advancing my education. I wouldn't be able to do that without the military. What else? Just having every time I look at a flag, I have a whole different respect for it. When I first, when you're in school and you say the Pledge of Allegiance, it's a symbol. But every time I look at a flag now, I know that I didn't necessarily fight for the United States, but I was there fighting for another country that needed it, and definitely makes me proud every time I look at one.
How are you using your GI Bill then?
Going to school, finish up my degree, getting a bachelor's, and then I'm going to continue on and get a master's degree. And the military's paying for most of my college.
That's a degree in what?
Business management.
Okay. So, is there anything else you want to add?
It was, I think about it, and I tell people my experience in the military is the best and worst time of my life. Best because I've got friends that, there's a guy named Steve. His last name's Reeves, in basic training, and when basic training, the drill sergeant's point is to break you down and do as many push-ups as you can, and we were right across from each other, and so every time the drill sergeants were yelling at us, we just kind of lock eyes and do as many push-ups as we could, and I still talk to him, occasionally, not as much as I'd like to. So you get friends that I'm gonna have forever. Was able to use the military to finish up college, get more education. But then I think about the times I was away from my family for so long, away from my friends, and that was tough too. So And there's definite times in basic training and even overseas where, you know, at night kind of looking up at the stars and just, you know, wishing that, you know, you were someplace totally different. But, you know, kept on and made it through.
I have a few questions. You were talking, I would just go back to your training, your one-on-one training with your drill sergeant. And you said, you said that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us a little more about that? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, we, you know, when, I think the ideal ratio is they try and have, you know, it's like, I think we get a battalion, then you've got companies, then you have platoons, and I think they're supposed to have 4 platoons of 60 people each. Well, we had 3 platoons of 30 people. And it was just, you know, the typical drill sergeant to soldier ratio, I'm sure was probably, you know, 1 in 10, and now it was like 1 in 3. So, you know, we, you know, there was, I mean, everywhere you looked, there was a drill sergeant, and they were watching your every move. And you know, on one hand, it was you know, it was good because, like I said, I think we got you know, I think we were able to take advantage of that and get better training. But at the same time, didn't have a whole lot of free time, and every time you made a mistake, there was someone right there watching you do it. So definitely interesting.
you couldn't hide.
No, couldn't hide at all. At all.
And we had a Vietnam veteran in here a couple of weeks ago, and he said that boot camp was one of the hardest experiences of his life, and that it breaks you down to nothing, but then it builds you up to something. Did you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, I mean that's kind of the drill sergeant's job. Is, you know, you go in there, and I remember the first week we felt like we couldn't do anything right because, I mean, we had to have the barracks cleaned every morning, and I mean we were going to bed at, you know, 10, 11 o'clock at night and getting up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning just to clean. So the drill sergeants didn't have anything to bitch about, and you know, they always found something, and we would you know, we would go back through, and you know, we'd say, okay, guys, it looks like we're getting up earlier, you know, tomorrow morning, and so the lack of sleep definitely plays a factor in it. But yeah, break us down, and then, you know, things like the victory tower. I mean, you know, just you know, you look back, you look at this humongous you know, structure where you have to, you know, climb a rope wall all the way to the top. You take a rope and you jump down, and you just this huge thing. It's like, I'm never gonna be able to do that. You know, it just looks so scary. And then after you did it, you kind of look, and, you know, like I did that, and you have a sense of accomplishment. And so it definitely helps give you some confidence. And then there are other aptly named confidence courses out there that you know, like that. You're in a group with, you know, 5, 6, 7 people, and you've got to move this, you know, 2x4 from here to here without touching the ground, or, you know, do crazy stuff like that. And you know, just being able to figure out how to do that, working together, you know, definitely gave you some confidence, and, you know, you were able to you know, definitely build yourself back up. And then, you know, you remember. You know, I'd love to say we remember all of our training, but you know, and especially I think being in the reserves. I mean, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year is not a lot, and doing that for a year and a half, and then going overseas, there were definitely some things that we were rusty on. But you kind of always look back, or, you know, think back to those times, and hey, you know, I did that. I can do this, and it definitely gives you some confidence.
Thank you. Why didn't they tell you about 9/11?
You know,
in the beginning?
I don't know. You know, I remember I was I got to wear the really ugly military glasses, and we were in the optometry section, and, you know, the drill sergeants, you know, you could just feel something was off, and that was the first time that I kind of noticed. I just kind of looking around, and a couple of drill sergeants over there talking, some of the workers were over there, and you just knew something was up, and you had no idea. And then you know, one of the sergeants you know, stopped by and he said, okay, you know, I want to let everybody know that we had some planes crashing on the World Trade Center. And we're like, whoa, you know, and again, like I said, I was like, that's a pretty crazy coincidence. And then I didn't even find out, you know, until a month or so later, talking with my mom on the telephone, you know, did you hear about the terrorist attacks? What? No, what terrorist attacks? The planes crashing on the World Trade Center. Oh, I had no idea there was terrorist attacks. I just thought it was a coincidence. It was, you know, kind of weird that 2 planes ran into the World Trade Center. And that's kind of when, you know, when we got home, You know, I remember they had some specials on HBO and kind of watching that, and it was just definitely you know, and I knew it was tough on everybody. I mean, because I was that was a pretty big sucker punch to our country. But I watch some of those videos and I always get teary-eyed thinking that this stuff happened, and I just now finding out about it. So it was definitely rough. Don't know exactly why they didn't tell us, but I'm sure it probably had something to do with they didn't want us to get worried, or they didn't want the rumors to start that actually started that we're basic training cut into 4 weeks and we're all going to fight somebody after that. So, but the rumors started anyway.
How did that feel to be deployed with little warning?
It was, we had, I remember it was January drill. They had, a big group of people come in, and we're all getting, it was all the checks and balances. And they said that we're doing this just in case, we do get deployed. We've got everything, everything ready to go. And so we all kind of, got the feeling, okay, I wonder if they know something we don't. But we had all our paperwork in order, and everything was ready to go. We had wills and everything drawn up, and then next month, I think it was the weekend before drill, I got the phone call, and just seeing it. I was working at a technical support company, and was on the phone with a customer, and I saw my phone ringing, and it was, I think, Sergeant Gonzalez, and I just kind of rolled my eyes, and I was like, this is going to be interesting. So I actually put the customer on hold, and I picked up my phone, and hello. Hey, Colosimo, you have to report to the drill center tomorrow instead of going to work. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. And so just the range of emotions. I remember I hung up with him and I hit the wall as hard as I could because I didn't know what else to do. And I got back on the phone with the customer. I said, yeah, I'm going to transfer you back to I'm transferring you to somebody else. I'm done with you. Which probably wasn't the right thing to do, but that's all I was thinking at that point.
We'll cut you some slack on that.
Yeah, okay, thanks. And so I went to my boss's office, which I didn't know he was actually in the military. He was a Marine Corps sniper, and I don't think he's old enough to be in Vietnam, but anyway, he was. And so I went in there. I said, "Hey, I'm going. I gotta leave work early today, and I'm not gonna be back for a while." And he's like, "Do what you gotta do? Get out of here." So, and just having that, I didn't have to worry about work, was kind of nice. So the next couple of days, I remember after that I drove to my mom's house. Didn't tell her why. Went up there and got some news today. Get deployed. But then went to the drill center next day with 23 of my some people I knew, some people I didn't. Soon to be my new 23 best friends, and shipped off. So it was definitely a range of emotions. I just started dating a girl like 3 weeks before that, and I was like, hey, this probably isn't gonna work out so well. But I mean, you just especially being in the reserves, your life gets put on hold for a year, or however long you're gone. So I mean, I'm sure it's very similar to active duty, but.
And going back to the weather, we've talked to some people that served in that part of the world, and they talk about the dust storms.
Oh yeah. Yep, that was. In fact, when the night we landed, we took off from Fort Lewis, Washington, stopped in New York, stopped in Italy, which was actually kind of cool. We weren't allowed to get off the plane, but they let the fresh air in, and so we could see Italy. And then we landed in Kuwait at night, and there was humongous dust storm. We got out, we couldn't see anything, and it was, they tell you about the dust storms, they suggested, hey, you guys might want to buy goggles or, something like that. And so we, a couple of us did. I was definitely one of the prepared ones, so I threw my goggles on and you could kind of see, and it just this, it was at night, so you couldn't really see how bad it was. Next day it was fine, but there were a couple times before we actually got set up at a camp, once we got into Kuwait, they stuck us out. They have different camps out there. We were at Camp New York, I remember. It's called Camp New York for 3 weeks, two or 3 weeks. And, we were just trying to get acclimatized to the weather. Being from Tucson, it wasn't that bad at that point, for me anyway. It was probably about 100 during the day. It wasn't too bad. But my platoon sergeant, me, and a couple other guys were like, hey, the time difference. Let's go to the phones at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and we'll call. And we didn't really have anything to do the next day, so it sounded like a great idea. Well, we start off, and we see the lights of where we're supposed to go, and this dust storm hits. And it was the first real one that we were in, and it was at night. And the part of our training was, when you're in dust storms and you can't see anything, if you're right-handed, you tend to kind of go in a path that's not straight. So they tell you every 10 steps you take one to the left. And so I was the only one with goggles, 2 o'clock in the morning, out in the middle of a dust storm, and so I was trying to do that, and we ended up way far to the left, where we should have been. And we had no idea where we were. New place. I mean, we couldn't see anything around us, and so we sat down and just kind of shut our eyes and waited for the dust storm to pass, and realized that we were about 500 yards. We were closer to or farther away than we thought we were. So we hiked it back, and we were able to call home. And I mean, luckily that one didn't last too long, but. There were some in the middle of the day that it just looked like this big orange glow, and it was definitely played havoc with anything electronic. Cameras. I think I went through 3 different digital cameras out there, which weren't expensive because they just came out, or were expensive, and a couple of bad laptops out there. Little radios. Our trucks had to be. A couple trucks just got completely demolished because dirt gets in the oil, and it's just not a good thing for the engine. So dust storms were definitely pretty bad. There's some pictures that I have where you couldn't see it at the time, but as soon as that flash goes off, it looks like it's snowing inside, right, because there's so many dust particles and dirt particles flying through the air. So yeah, dust storms were pretty bad, and the temperature was especially. We were a transportation unit, and we had, the passenger side of our trucks, you could unscrew and pop off so someone can actually ride up on the top of the truck. And that was, I was a saw gunner, which is a fully automatic machine gun. And so I was sitting on top of my truck with the engine compartment right behind me, 135 degrees outside. I'm in my full, Kevlar body armor, long sleeve, with the 400-degree engine heat coming right up next to me. So definitely was a little toasty over there. We had it was kind of gross, but we a lot of sunflower seeds, especially we're on the road. We were eating a lot of sunflower seeds, and we'd take off our jackets after a mission. We'd see sweat lines in our shirt, just because of all the salt and sweat that we were taking in and sweating out.
So, thinking about sunflower seeds, what was the food, or how was the food?
A lot of chicken and rice. Yeah. So I don't know why, but some reason in Kuwait we the people that were kind of in charge of cooking, we had some sort of chicken and some sort of rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. I've been back for 10 years now, and I'm finally starting to like chicken again. I was so sick of it when I got back, and so some sort of chicken, rice. Sometimes it was great. I think for Thanksgiving, they couldn't get any turkey, but we had crab legs, which was kind of nice. I think we had lobster once or twice for Christmas, maybe. I don't remember, but usually it was chicken and rice, which again, that's when we were, at camp on missions where it was all about MREs. The meals ready to eat in the brown bags, which it's funny because you talk to when we were over there, it was you got number 20. I think 20 was chili mac and cheese or something like that. We didn't refer to them by their name. It was number 20. Oh, you got 17, and here's mine, and we exchanged parts of it. So we tried to have fun with it and get the ones that we liked at least. Some of them were okay. Some of them were better than others. But luckily, being in Kuwait, there was a PX right there, and got a lot of cans of the Chef Boyardee ravioli. And 120 degrees, you're sitting on the top of your truck for 10 minutes, and better than a microwave. Definitely started living off of that, about halfway through. But as we, this was kind of right when Operation Iraqi Freedom started. As it progressed, they had there was a Subway less than a mile away from us. There was a Burger King that eventually popped up. So those were the little pleasantries in life. Walk a mile and get some Burger King, so it was kind of nice. But again, that was towards the end. So
What were some of the biggest changes in the area besides
the roads? The roads were big. I mean, being a transportation company, that's something that you look at. And when we first got in country, nothing was paved. I mean, it was all dirt road, and you'd take a left at the third cactus. I mean, there weren't cactus, but you'd take a left at the third tree, and I mean, that's how bad it was. Once they started getting some more troops there that were paving stuff. By the time we left there, I think everything was paved. Almost everything was paved. On one hand, it was great because we weren't on the bumpy roads anymore. But on the other hand, it looks so different that if we hadn't been there in 6 months, we had no idea where we were at again. Again, it's all kind of barren landscape in Kuwait where you kind of look around and everything looks the same. I was actually really surprised. The southern Iraq looked that way, but once we got to northern Iraq, it was beautiful. Palm trees everywhere. It was actually a really, really pretty countryside. Of course, Saddam's palaces were all around there. We saw a couple of his palaces. A couple of the really nice mosques in the area were right next to beautiful streams and palm trees everywhere. And so once you get to northern Iraq, it was definitely a lot prettier.
How were you treated by the Iraqis or by the locals?
So this actually happened. We were in, I think, southern Iraq, going northern Iraq, and there was a bunch of people walking, and within the span of 5 or 6 people, there was two guys wearing their white get-ups, and they were doing this, like thank you, and not more than 3 or 4 people later, there was a lady in a purple purple dress giving us the finger. And that kind of summed it up for me. There were some of us, some of the people out there were very thankful that we're there. Some of them hated us, and you just don't know why. We're trying to there to protect the Iraqi citizens, but it just not really sure. So it just depends on the situation. There were some of the cities that we went through that were very similar, but you had a lot of guys that would purposely not look at you. So it just depended on where we were at the time.
Mike, were there many situations when you were actually in combat?
Being transportation, we didn't, we weren't in very many combat situations. I mean, one of the things that, the worst thing to expect when you're in transportation is getting ambushed. So the last place that we want to go is in the middle of, a ravine where people could, disabled vehicle in front of you and behind you, and you're in the middle of a firefight. So we try to avoid those situations at all costs. I mean, there were definitely times we got shot at in trucks, but we're going, the top speed was 50 miles an hour. But when you're going 50 miles an hour, you shoot back, but you don't really stop and take a look afterwards. So there were definitely times when there were people shooting at us, and we had our little smoke grenades. We pop smoke, and so they couldn't try to disguise our vehicles a little bit and to let everyone else know that hey, there's contact to the right. So we kind of lay down some suppressive fire and kind of go from there. Definitely saw some bullet holes in our trucks, 3 feet behind my head. But as far as combat, we didn't see a whole lot of it. There was one time where we were in Iraq, and there was one of our vehicles was disabled. I don't remember what happened. It had a flat tire or something. So I had to pull over and change the tire. There's a vehicle that trails all of our convoys called a wrecker, and what the wrecker's job is to help them out, and so that way not the whole convoy doesn't have to stop. We slow down, get them fixed as quickly as they can, catch up to us, and then we'll go. There was one of the trucks broke down. They stopped. The wrecker pulled up. The wrecker broke down, and so we all had to stop. And so we all stop, and we're all coming up to the side of the road. We've got our guns out, making sure no one's gonna mess with us. And all of a sudden we hear gunfire probably 100 feet away, and we didn't know if they were coming towards us or what. So we all hit the deck instantly. And there was, it was in the afternoon, so I could see a shadow approaching me. from behind, and just scare my. I remember my skin just goosebumps instantly, and for reasons like that, we all had big knives on us just in case, and so I told my buddy next to him, I said, hey, cover me, and so I kind of rolled over real quick, got my knife, and looked at the guy, and he was just. He didn't have a gun or anything. He just kind of wanted to see what we were looking at. I mean, there's gunfire. The guy's just kind of standing up, looking over us. And so I started yelling. I was like, dude, get out of here. And so, he kind of ran off eventually. But I mean, just had no idea. I mean, could have been some guy with a gun. You never know. So that was, I guess that was the closest I was. There was a time where we were helping the. I don't remember who it was. 82nd Airborne, 101st. It was some group, but there was I think a reserve unit attached to them, and they were not very smart at all. In transportation, you don't want to drive when the sun's going down or when the sun's coming up. There's certain times where you don't drive, and that you try and avoid night like the plague, because that's when people get attacked. And they wanted to go through Fallujah, which was one of the most dangerous parts of Iraq, at night. That was their plan. And our commander, which I'm sure he got hell for, but he said, I'm sorry, we're not doing that. So we spent the night at Baghdad International Airport, and we're like, well, we'll bring your stuff tomorrow. See you guys later. And so we kind of broke off from them. And then we planned to leave. As soon as the sun came up, we were out. And we went through there. We found out after we got up there that 3 of their trucks got hit. There was a huge firefight. We, because of the choices that we made, I mean, who knows what could have happened. And so, I think the lieutenant, he almost got demoted for making that decision, but then he's like, look, we made the right decision, thanks. I don't remember what happened, but we all thanked him for doing it. So
It's interesting how you're at the mercy of whoever's in charge like that.
Absolutely. And then, that's one of the, love the military, Army Reserves, but I mean, there's something about the military rank is, it's not like, and I guess it probably happens in the civilian world too, but, you got to prove, you got to, have the time in service, but you also have to demonstrate that you know how to think on your feet. And there were some of our sergeants over there that, I mean, I had my squad leader at one point, he wanted to make sure I was awake. It was that same mission, he wanted to make sure I'm awake, so he took the muzzle of his M16 and poked me in the chest with it. And I went off on him. I started yelling at him. The lieutenant came over. He goes, Colosimo, shut the heck up. And I told him what had happened, and he went off on the sergeant. And it's just like, really? You think that's okay to point me with the muzzle of your weapon? Not okay. So little things like that definitely drove me crazy about the military. Just because he was in for 20 years doesn't mean he's smarter than me. So.
In the play, A Piece of My Heart, and then a couple of vets, I always ask this question because I thought it was just pretty powerful. They talked about, in most of those stories about the women who served in Vietnam, they talked about the plane ride over. And I don't know how it was for you, but they talked about how it was very happy, or they were very jovial and, getting to know each other and everything on the plane on the way over. But then when they began to land, it just got silent, completely silent, and I don't know if you had that experience.
Absolutely. I remember in fact, I've got, we were all camera happy, and we all got, cameras. I've got tons of pictures on the flight on the way there. We had a big flag, and we all signed our name on the flag. I forget. I think we mailed it home, or I forget what we did with it. But we were all in great spirits. Hey, we're in this together, and then we started to land, and everyone just got really quiet, and. It was definitely a different atmosphere. And then I'll never forget the plane ride home. We were taking off from Kuwait. We were going to land in Germany. Actually, I don't even know if we were supposed to land in Germany. And then we're supposed to fly to Alaska. But something was wrong with our plane. And the way that, there were civilian planes, but they were chartered for the military. And so we couldn't just get another plane. We had to be that plane. So something was wrong with our plane, and we were, they had to fix it. And so we were stranded in Germany for 3 days. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to deal with us unloading all our bags and reloading it, so we had our carry-ons pretty much for 3 days in Germany. It was some of the decisions the military makes are interesting. They bust us to a 5-star hotel for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for those 3 days, which boggled my mind. But the food was great, so I guess I shouldn't complain. We all smelled horrible because we couldn't take showers or anything. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. But then. Supposedly our plane was fixed. We all got on. We had the high tech screens at how many miles till we get to Alaska, and I forget what the exact mileage was, but it had the number 666 in it. And so we were all like, okay, whatever. And so we take off, and our plane does one of these where we kind of slide back, and then we take off again. And in that split second, we all kind of looked at each other and were like, this is it, And
After all you'd been through.
Exactly. After all we've been through. So once we landed in Alaska, I think we were all pretty relieved that we made it back okay. The plane ride home was definitely more memorable.
And just the effects of the war on you, I mean, I don't know, physically or anything, mentally or...
There's definitely some times when, I try to avoid crowded situations now. If there's... like I remember Club Crawl, downtown they have all the clubs, the bars get together, and I used to love going to that. There's all people all around, and now I don't want to think about going down there because it just kind of freaks me out. I don't want to be in a crowd with all those people. So I try to stay away from big crowds. Loud noises definitely startle me more than they used to. Before I went overseas, I could sit through an action-packed movie and just be fine and just be into it. Now, if something jumps out or something, I'm jumping 3 feet in my chair, and that never used to happen to me. So little things like that definitely changed me personally. I know there was some of my buddies are very similar, but yeah, so little things like that. Every now and then still have nightmares about being overseas and getting shot at and ambushed and stuff like that. It's been 10 years, and they've definitely decreased in the last 10 years. But every now and then, one will pop up.
And health-wise?
For the most part, I was actually diagnosed with lupus as soon as I got back. It's really interesting if you take a look at the symptoms of lupus and the symptoms of Gulf War syndrome. They're actually pretty similar. And so, who knows what, I'm not drawing any conclusions, but, some of the doctors say that because of all the stress in my body, I developed lupus from that. So, have that and get to deal with that every day. But other than that, for the most part, physically I'm fine.
And just overall, your feeling of when we invaded Iraq, do you think, were you pro?
I never really, honestly, I'm not one to get into politics, and so I didn't really, I'm kind of the mind of, hey, I'm told go do this, I'm going to go do it. But it was very interesting. I mean, I saw the miles and miles of pipeline leading from Iraq that I assume were going to be carrying oil. Whether or not, we had to go over there, needed to go over there, I think that someone had to do it, because they obviously couldn't take care of themselves. But, I think it's funny that we're trying to teach other countries democracy when we haven't even got it down yet. My own personal opinion.
Were you there when the statue came down?
I was. In fact, I've got pictures of it. I wasn't right there. There was one of our platoons that was in the area, and I drove by it when it was up, and then I've got pictures I didn't take, but of it coming down. So it was and you could always tell, even it didn't matter what part of the Middle East we were in, we could always tell something big happened, because just the way people would act. Without us hearing it yet. I remember the day, that Saddam's, I think his sons were killed or captured. We were getting shot at in Kuwait that day, which never happened. We never got shot in Kuwait. And so that day, we were like, is that gunfire? And, so we realized, all right, something big happened today. Either we got Saddam or something happened. And sure enough, we got back and, they killed the sons, or I don't remember what happened. So we could always tell. In fact, the day they captured Saddam, I was probably 15 miles to the south on that very, very same day, which is, and of course I didn't find that out till 10 days later when I got back, but it was kind of interesting. So.
Anybody have any other questions or anything else you want to share with us?
No, I mean, like I said, best and worst experience of my life. A lot of good memories, a lot of friends, a lot of things that definitely changed me, I think, for the better. But definitely changed me for the worse at times also. So.
We're glad you're back safely.
Me too.
Thank you.
No problem.